What do you think about Port Arthur now?
Well, it seems to have loosened up a little bit since I left.
When music fans think of Janis Joplin, they picture the barefoot hippie queen with the whiskey-soaked voice and untamed spirit.
Some came along, 100 grand to hold up.
The counterculture icon who brought blues rock to its knees with Piece of My Heart. The passionate performer who lived and loved without boundaries.
You just feel yourself. Yeah. It's just like when you're making love with someone, you know, how you're completely, supremely.
But behind the feather boas and Southern comfort bottles was a deeply opinionated artist with exacting standards for musical authenticity. While Joplin projected a free-spirited public persona, those in her inner circle witnessed moments when her bohemian veneer cracked, revealing blistering critiques of performers who failed to meet her standards for raw, emotional honesty. Janis had zero tolerance for phoniness, revealed her former road manager John Cook in a rare 2017 interview. She could spot a fake from a mile away, and she wasn't shy about calling it out, especially after a few drinks. From heated confrontations during the San Francisco scene to dismissive comments about pop stars who represented everything she rebelled against, Joplin's private opinions exposed a fiercely protective attitude toward the blues tradition she considered sacred. Her musical feuds weren't just personal squabbles, they reflected fundamental disagreements about artistic integrity, emotional vulnerability, and what rock music should truly represent. Today, we're counting down the 5 singers that Janis Joplin reportedly couldn't stand, and why even some of music's most celebrated voices found themselves on the receiving end of the Pearl's notoriously unfiltered criticism. 5. Grace Slick. Our countdown begins with a rivalry between two queens of the San Francisco sound. While Janis Joplin and Jefferson Airplane's Grace Slick defined different aspects of the psychedelic era, their relationship was reportedly marked by competitive tension and philosophical differences about performance approach. Their paths first crossed in the Haight-Ashbury scene of 1966, when both were on the verge of national recognition. According to drummer Spencer Dryden, who played with both women, Joplin allegedly viewed Slick's classically trained vocal style with suspicion. Janis reportedly told people backstage at the Fillmore, "Grace sings from her head, not her guts," Dryden claimed in a 1990s documentary. The tension escalated during the Monterey Pop Festival in 1967, where both women delivered breakthrough performances. Photographer Jim Marshall overheard Joplin's alleged reaction after watching Jefferson Airplane's set. "That chick looks great in those boots, but she's just playing at being dangerous. There's a difference between singing about revolution and actually living one." What seemed like a natural alliance between two pioneering women in rock reportedly turned competitive when Slick's more controlled, intellectual approach gained critical praise. Janis supposedly resented that Grace could turn it on and off, recalled Big Brother guitarist Sam Andrew. She'd say, "When I'm on that stage, I'm bleeding for real. Grace is just acting." Despite their differences, both women shared the experience of shattering barriers for female performers in the male-dominated rock world, even if Joplin allegedly insisted she did it with more soul. 4. Jim Morrison. The tension between Janis Joplin and The Doors' Jim Morrison represents one of rock's most volatile personality clashes. Their brief but intense encounters in the late 1960s reportedly left Joplin with a permanent distaste for Morrison's stage persona and poetic pretensions. According to Doors keyboardist Ray Manzarek, the animosity began at a party following the Monterey Pop Festival, where Morrison allegedly approached Joplin with typically provocative overtures. Janis reportedly shut him down by saying, "You're not a real bluesman. You're just a pretty boy with leather pants and daddy issues," Manzarek claimed in his memoir. Their professional rivalry intensified as both artists gained national prominence. Though they approached rock stardom from different angles, Morrison through poetic mysticism, Joplin through raw emotional vulnerability, they competed for the same album sales and festival slots. Mutual friend Peggy Caserta alleged that Joplin once remarked after watching The Doors perform, "He's reciting poetry up there, not singing. When that boy actually feels something instead of just thinking about feeling something, maybe then I'll listen." The final confrontation reportedly came during a shared billing at a 1969 festival. Sound engineer Owsley Bear Stanley claimed Joplin stormed into Morrison's dressing room and allegedly declared, "Your problem is you don't know the difference between being a rock star and being an artist. I do both every night." Despite their clashes, both singers shared self-destructive tendencies that would lead to their premature deaths within months of each other. The tragic parallel wasn't lost on Joplin, who allegedly told friends after one of their encounters, "That boy's headed the same place I am, only he's enjoying the ride less." 3. Paul McCartney. Few would expect tension between the earthy blues rock queen and the melodic Beatle, but according to those close to Joplin, her feelings toward Paul McCartney represented her complex relationship with mainstream pop success. Their worlds collided briefly in 1968 when the Beatles were recording the White Album and Big Brother was working in a nearby London studio. Session musician Bobby Keys witnessed their awkward meeting, claiming Joplin was unimpressed by McCartney's polished professionalism. Janis reportedly told her band afterward, "He makes pretty little songs for pretty little people. I make music that bleeds," Keys revealed in his autobiography. The philosophical divide grew deeper as Joplin struggled with commercial expectations while trying to maintain her artistic integrity. Producer Gabriel Meckler, who worked on her final album, claimed Joplin frequently used McCartney as a counterpoint to her own approach. She'd allegedly say, "Paul writes songs like he's creating products. I sing like I'm ripping out my insides." What frustrated Joplin most, according to her sister Laura, was the apparent ease of McCartney's success. Janis once reportedly told me, "That man has never had to fight for a single note. Every door opened for him while I'm still kicking them down," Laura Joplin claimed in a family memoir. The irony wasn't lost on Joplin's friends that despite her criticism of McCartney's commercial appeal, she privately yearned for similar recognition. Biographer Myra Friedman quoted Joplin's supposed admission during a late-night conversation. "Maybe I'm just jealous that he can write a perfect 3-minute pop song and I have to scream my guts out to make people listen." 2. Joan Bayz. The friction between Janis Joplin and folk icon Joan Bayz exemplifies the generational and stylistic divide that fractured the 1960s music scene. Though both women built careers on authenticity and emotional delivery, their approaches to music and activism reportedly created a mutual wariness that never resolved. According to mutual friend and photographer Linda Eastman, their first significant encounter at the 1967 Monterey Pop Festival set the tone for their relationship. Janis allegedly watched Joan's pristine performance and told her bandmates, "She sings like someone who's read about suffering in a book, not someone who's lived it," Eastman claimed in a retrospective interview. Their philosophical differences extended beyond music to lifestyle and political approach. Bayz represented the disciplined, intellectual wing of the protest movement, while Joplin embodied its hedonistic, emotionally raw counterpart. Janis reportedly said, "Joan thinks changing the world means writing clever protest songs. I think it means living without any rules at all," recalled Grateful Dead manager Rock Scully. The tension came to a head backstage at Woodstock in 1969. According to festival organizer Michael Lang, when someone suggested they perform together, Joplin allegedly retorted, "Her voice is too pretty and her message is too clean. I don't sing pretty, and I don't live clean." Despite their differences, both women pioneered paths for female artists in a male-dominated industry. Folk historian Richie Unterberger noted the irony that, while Janis reportedly dismissed Joan as too controlled and perfect, many critics saw Joplin as the authentic emotional force Bayz's precise folk approach lacked. The contrast extended to their audiences as well. Former Rolling Stone writer David Dalton claimed Joplin once mockingly analyzed a Bayz concert. Janis allegedly said, "Look at them. They're all sitting down, politely nodding their heads. My people are on their feet, screaming. That's the difference between making people think and making people feel." This fundamental disagreement about music's primary purpose, intellectual engagement versus visceral reaction, reportedly fueled their continued mutual skepticism. Their final connection came tragically after Joplin's death, when Bayz performed at a memorial service. Close friend Peggy Caserta later claimed that Joplin would have found this the ultimate irony, being sent off by exactly the kind of sanitized performance she spent her life rebelling against. Despite never reconciling their differences, both singers left indelible marks on American music, albeit from opposite ends of the counterculture spectrum. Number 1. Barbra Streisand. At the top of our countdown sits Joplin's most intense and surprising musical antipathy, her reported disdain for Barbra Streisand. Despite their shared vocal power and emotional delivery, these two represented opposing poles of female performance in the late 1960s. According to Columbia Records executive Clive Davis, who worked with both artists, Joplin's animosity surfaced during a label event where Streisand was being celebrated. Janis allegedly knocked back a shot and muttered, "They spend millions making her sound imperfect enough to seem human. I have to fight to keep them from cleaning up what makes me real," Davis revealed in his memoir. Costume designer Linda Gravenites, who created Joplin's iconic stage outfits, claimed the singer used Streisand as the antithesis of her artistic philosophy. Janis supposedly said, "Barbra hits every note perfectly, but feels none of them. I might miss a note, but you'll feel every damn one I do hit." The contrast between their careers, Streisand's meteoric mainstream success,
Wanna be a dreamer, be one. Anytime you
versus Joplin's struggle for recognition on her own terms, reportedly fueled the resentment. Music journalist Ben Fong Torres quoted Joplin's alleged assessment. "Barbra sells the illusion of emotion while keeping herself perfectly safe. I give people the real thing and it's killing me." Perhaps most telling was sound engineer Eddie Kramer's recollection of Joplin's reaction when Funny Girl was playing in the studio during Pearl recording sessions. She allegedly stopped everything and said, "Turn that off, that's everything I'm trying not to be." And there you have it, the 5 singers who reportedly found themselves on the receiving end of Janis Joplin's unfiltered criticism. From Grace Slick's intellectual approach to Jim Morrison's poetic posturing, Paul McCartney's melodic perfection to Joan Baez's pristine protest, and finally Barbra Streisand's controlled emotionality, each relationship reveals something about Joplin's fiercely held musical values. What makes these feuds so fascinating isn't just the celebrity drama, but how they highlight Joplin's unwavering commitment to emotional authenticity in an industry increasingly driven by image and production. Her criticisms weren't just personal, they were passionate defenses from an artist who believed music should cost something to make and mean everything to hear.